How you doing, Amir?
Hi, Stefan. How are you?
Hi. Yeah, nice to meet you. I just wanted to begin by asking about your relationship with the original movie Forrest Gump, and do you remember it being quite big when it was first released in India? And is that quite normal for Hollywood films in India?
Well, Forrest Gump, for an Indian audience, when it came out in the 90s, would have been a very niche film. And I do remember watching the film when it came out in the 90s. And I just loved the film. I remember seeing it 2 or 3 times in a short span. And it really touched my heart. It moved me deeply. I loved Tom Hanks's performance. But at that time, I had never imagined I would ever do a adaptation of it. And in fact, how it happened is Atul, a friend of mine, who's also an actor, we were chatting one night and he asked me, what is your favorite film? And I said, one of them is Forrest Gump. And he said, cool. And we were talking about it and the night got over and I forgot all about it. And then 2 weeks later, he calls up and says, I have a script for you. So I said, oh, but you're not a writer. I mean, you've never written anything. He says, no, I haven't, but I just gave it a shot. And I really want you to hear it. I said, what is it? He said, it's an Indian adaptation of Forrest Gump. And I started laughing. I said, you serious? He said, yeah. So I didn't have much hopes from it because I couldn't imagine how it would, translate into an Indian environment. And though I'd loved the film, but I didn't think it would, I couldn't imagine how it would be adapted.
Yeah.
So it's only when I heard the narration from Atul, that's when it really hit me in its full force. And I just fell in love with it. And I was like, wow. I mean, he's done such a beautiful job of adapting it to India and the cultural references of India. And it's kind of, by the end of the story, I felt I was listening to an Indian story, which originally actually was an American one. So he'd done a great job and I just fell in love with what he had done. And that's when I realized that, I think we should go for it and I'd like to do this and be a part of this. And then that's when it kind of became a real decision for us and for me. And then we tried to get the rights, which took us 8 years. Yeah.
I mean, like you say, it's a great voyage into kind of Indian culture and history, much like Forrest Gump was for America.
Sure.
But one of the things I loved, one of the changes, of course, it's not a box of chocolates. Is it Golgappa, the name of the snack?
Yeah.
I love the look of that. I was just wondering, because you travel a lot, with work and stuff. When you go to other countries, what Indian snack or bit of food do you miss the most from home?
Oh, well, I love Indian food and so I do miss Indian food when I'm traveling. But I have to say that when I'm traveling, I also like to experience cuisines from all over the world, and that's exciting as well. So when I'm traveling, I prefer not to eat Indian, and I prefer to experiment with cuisines from different parts of the world wherever I'm traveling to, and that's what I like doing. Yeah.
And you mentioned this. You've been this film's been with you for sort of 8 years. That means the character must have been with you for that amount of time as well. Have you ever felt so entwined with a character as you do with Laal?
It kind of seems like I've been Laal for the last decade or so. Because it's been in my head and in my system for so long. It took us so long to get the rights, but it kept playing in my head. And while I was also doing other work, it was always there. And so when we finally got the rights, it was a very exciting moment for us. And then we finally actually jumped into making it. And then, of course, we were struck by COVID right in the middle of it. And it was really tough to negotiate that period because you're shooting in small breaks and you have long gaps of 6 months. And then there's second wave. And, so it was not the ideal way to make a film. But it was an exciting journey. And I really enjoyed playing Laal.
I wanted to ask about the challenges, though, playing this role. Firstly, he doesn't speak a huge amount. So there's a lot of acting you have to do without having that kind of safety of words, but also the challenge of portraying him across so many years. Because when you play him at like 18, everything is ahead of you. So I guess you almost have to block out an entire lifetime.
Yes. That was my biggest challenge because I'm in my 50s and to play a character who goes from 18 to 20, early 20s, 25, 30, that age group to go back to. And especially for a character whose strongest quality is his innocence. So innocence is what you lose as you keep growing older. Your life's experiences teach you so many things. All the memories are there within you. So when you're playing a younger character, like you said, is really one of the key things you need to do is try and wipe out what you know and try and unlearn what you've learned and try and just address it like all fresh and do it in a totally different way. So that's what I tried to do.
You do a wonderful job. Of course, it was a character first made famous by Tom Hanks, and you're great at doing this role. But what character of yours would you like to see Tom Hanks play?
Oh, well, I think he'll make a great Nikum sir. That was the character I played in a film called Tare Zameen Par, which I actually directed myself. And that character of Nikum is something I think he'll do really well. It's right down the street.
And just my very final question. I mean, the film is opening in the UK in 350 screens, which is double what any Bollywood film has ever had. You must be so thrilled it'll reach so many people. And I'm just wondering about if you feel quite excited for Bollywood at the moment in terms of its kind of global status, because of, you like the things of as well as like Netflix. It feels like the awareness and accessibility for audiences outside of India to watch Bollywood films is greater than it's probably ever been.
Yes, you're right. Because of OTT platforms, all of us have got an opportunity to watch films and shows from different parts of the world, and we've experienced that, over the last couple of years. So all of us are really excited, because you must remember that we were setting out to make a film for an Indian audience, because as far as we were concerned, the Americans and all of Europe had seen Forrest Gump and loved it. So we were looking at India as an audience which hadn't seen. The bulk of India has not seen Forrest Gump. And so we were looking at, and the film was being made for an Indian audience. It's only now that the film having, Paramount having seen the film, and head of distribution and head of marketing having loved the film, and they said, we'd like to distribute it. And that's the first time we realized, hey, the film's traveling. It's not limited to an Indian audience. Americans and people across are liking it. And we're thrilled. We're really thrilled with that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. Best of luck with the release of the film.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey